guys, we are back again and we're going to talk about Cyntoia Brown's release. I'm very glad for this young woman who I believe had a very hard life, and it showed a lot. Let's just look at this article from CBS News. So, Cyntoia Brown was released from prison Wednesday after a high-profile clemency had been one of 182 juvenile lifers in Tennessee, or someone under the age of 18 who was sentenced to life in prison. Brown, now 31, was convicted for murdering a man allegedly hired her as a teenage prostitute until being granted clemency in January. At the time of her 2006 sentencing, a judge ruled Brown would not be eligible for parole until she was in her late 60s. Tennessee has the highest minimum an individual with a life sentence must serve to be eligible for review. State law mandates someone be behind bars for 60 years, but that number can drop to 51 years at the earliest for good behavior. Texas has the highest barrier, requiring at least 40 years of time served in eligible cases. According to Ashley Nellis, a senior researcher at the Sentencing Project, the nationwide average has historically been about 25 years. Criminal justice reform advocates say her case could bring much needed attention to what's become a widespread issue. The public is largely unaware of life sentences for juveniles, or even adults for that matter. Around the country, Nellis told CBS News, the U.S. rate for life sentences far outpasses the rest of the world, and it's growing more rapidly than ever. Juveniles who are suspended to or sentenced to life in prison are tried as adults, and then the possibility of parole is determined on a case-by-case basis. The Sentencing Project estimates there are 8,000 individuals nationwide serving juvenile life sentences with the possibility of parole after they serve an extended period of time. We appear by some accounts in this era of criminal justice reform to be making progress, but life sentences haven't been given their fair shake, Nellis added. Brown's lawyer said in court she was a sex trafficking victim. According to court documents, Brown ran away from her adopted family in July of 2004. She began living with an abusive man referred to as Cutthroat in the documents, who forced her into prostitution. Brown was tried and convicted as an adult of first-degree murder and aggravated robbery after she shot a 43-year-old man who she said hired her for sex. In court, Brown's lawyers argued their client, 16 years old at the time of the crime, was acting in self-defense. However, prosecutors said the crime was committed with the intent to steal. Brown fled the scene with money and guns and told police she intended to pawn them. Cyntoia's case touches a lot of concerns in our society that are getting more attention now than ever, said Nellis. I would hope in today's world she would at least get a little more sympathy for the fact that she had been put in that situation at such a young age. Brown's lawyers argued their client deserved post-conviction relief after the Supreme Court's Miller v. Alabama ruling in 2012. That decision said that life without parole sentences for juveniles violated the Constitution's 8th Amendment, prohibiting cruel and unusual punishments. The only issue with that basis of appeal in Brown's case is that she was eligible for parole. It would just take over half of a century to happen. The Sentencing Project estimates there are approximately 2,100 inmates serving juvenile life sentences without the possibility of a review, who now have a chance for a relief under recent rulings such as Miller v. Alabama. There's an increasing push by reform advocates to have life without the possibility of parole eliminated for all offenders. Most argue long sentences have minimal impact on improving public safety or deterring criminal behavior. Nellis said a primary reform would be capping any life sentence at 20 years after the time period, she says, then there should be an opportunity for review. A recent study found an increased reluctance by states to grant parole to eligible individuals serving life sentences. Nellis and Brown's case could also shed light on parole board reform and the important rehabilitative function it can serve when utilized correctly. The issue is garnering national attention. A wave of celebrities, including Kim K, Rihanna, highlighted Brown's case on social media in November of 2017. At the time, Brown's lawyer told the Associated Press he was unaware that what prompted the surge of the support. She is really just lucky that she got the attention of these Hollywood celebs, Nellis added. As someone who was locked up at a lot of these individuals around the country, there are many, many more cases. Everyone deserves a second look. Earlier this year, outgoing Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam granted Brown clemency. In a statement, the Republican said his decision stemmed from Brown's extraordinary personal transformation while incarcerated, including the completion of her GED and an associate degree. Brown will be on parole for the next 10 years. She is also subject to a release plan and supervision conditions, including employment and counseling requirements. I thank Governor and the First Lady Haslam for their vote of the confidence in me, Brown wrote in a statement released Monday. With the Lord's help, I will make them, as well as the rest of my supporters, proud. Wow, so that is great. She was released after a pretty lengthy time in prison, 16 years. Now, if y'all remember back, and if you have watched the documentary on her, which I have, this case was very high profile, being the fact that this man was Caucasian, and nobody got over the fact that this man picked up a 14-year-old girl and brought her back to his house. I mean, that was never in the question of the jury of the court itself, which kind of blew my mind, but it's not that surprising to me, being that he was a Caucasian man. A lot of people are questioning the fact that she did take money and guns from his house. They're saying that this was just a robbery. And let me know what your thoughts are on this situation. I am personally happy for her. It looks like she has been rehabilitated, which is the point of prison and jails. So comment down below your thoughts.